Hey guys, welcome back. MTG Moxman here. Coming up next, that's right, Dungeons & Dragons is meeting with Magic the Gathering to make a new set. Let's talk about it in advance of predictions of what we'd like to see and maybe some famous character clashes we'd like to see going forward. It's coming up next. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing this a lot. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hey guys, welcome back. MTG Moxman here. Hope you guys are having a great day. You're comfy, you're kind of settled in, and you're ready to just talk a little bit. Because you know what? This is a great conversation topic. I know Kaldheim's coming up. We got Strixhaven coming up. But I just feel that Dungeons & Dragons needs a little attention. I know it's like not till the summer. I get that. But I got to talk about it. I've waited long enough. I'm a big D&D fan. I started out in the mid 80s playing D&D, and I started out like back in the day. We had boxes like this. Okay, you can see that good old box from I guess this is what year is this? Doesn't even tell you the year. Not recommended for children. But back in the day, guys, miniatures were made of a pewter metal, and you had to paint them by hand. Nowadays, you got things like Games Workshop making plastic miniatures. But back then, this was the way to go. It was the only way to go. They were very heavy, very metally, and you painted them. You had a good time. And there was whole adventures to be told. Look at my Greater Druid. Right? Come on, he's awesome. And I literally have thousands of these old miniatures because I really enjoyed it as a kid, and I grew up playing it. Now, not only that, but, I mean, Dungeons & Dragons had its own TV show. Come on. Who didn't watch this as a kid? This is Warduke, man. Tell me he's not amazing. You know, it's a good TV show too, actually. And then, at that time, I think I went to grade 6, 7, 8, and of course I still loved, and I fell in love with Dragonlance. Margaret West, Tracy Hickman invention. Great book series. Of course, I fell in love. My first ever fantasy novel was The Legend of Huma. This is Huma's Silver Dragon. These, again, are pewter miniatures that came in, pieces. And you had to, put the... Ah! I caught it, don't worry. As you can tell, I never put this one together. And you put these bad boys together and glued them. And yes, they haven't really been opened. What can I say? I like to keep my stuff safe. Right? But now we have it mixing it up with Magic the Gathering. Now, there's been small crossovers over the years, little things they brought up. Like, we're all familiar with, famous cards like Fireball, right? It's a classic Magic card, but it's a classic D&D card as well. Every wizard hopes to get to level 5 so they could use Fireball back in the day. Now, please understand, for those of you watching the video, I'm an old-school Magic player and an old-school D&D player. So I played during Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, and, of course, when D&D was out, we played first edition rules, advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and then second edition rules. I never went beyond second edition, so if any of my information's out of date in that respect, I'm sorry, that's just as far as I ever went. I didn't feel the need to go further after you invest that kind of money in that many books. So, over the years, remember, TSR, right, got bought out by Wizards of the Coast, who eventually got bought out by Hasbro. So it's like a smaller fish eating a smaller fish being eaten by the big fish. So when you look at these cards and you realize they're already having small crossovers, they actually had a collectible card game somewhere in the early 90s. It just never took off right because they were separated. They weren't merged in the way they are now. And whoever's building this backdrop of the stories, I gotta be honest, most Magic sets in the last year have been amazing. I have no complaints, so I actually have no worries that the D&D set merged in will be awesome. The only thing I fear is that they don't put the heroes I want. I want heroes. They're using the party mechanic. We know that. They're going to use the hero party mechanic. They may even have planeswalkers in there related to some of these characters. I don't know, but I'm telling you now, certain characters I'm expecting to see. This is Forgotten Realms, so although this is going to branch off a little bit from Forgotten Realms, I'm telling you I'm expecting to see it. And if they don't do it, Wizards, I'm coming to get you. I want to see some cards. And I mean, there are great cards. Like, they brought stuff in. Like, look, Bag of Holding. Another great example, right? It's cool to see it. Okay? Being over-prepared, right? The card text, right? Having a little bit of everything in there just in case you need it. It's awesome. It reminds us of Dungeons & Dragons. And then, of course, For sheer novelty, I put this in, and that's the fact it's the sword of Dungeons and Dragons. Enough said. Okay? If you look at that sword, it has a collaboration of like a mace and a sword and the D20 dice and the fact it puts gold dragons into play. Of course, most people forget that like gold dragons, black dragons, red dragons in Dungeons and Dragons, depending on what world you're on, like Forgotten Realms, I believe they're about 700 feet in length. Think about that. 700 feet. You don't see that anywhere in Magic right now. You didn't see it on Krynn. Krynn dragons are like 50 feet long. So if you're getting a 700 foot tall ancient great worm, how are you going to put that in Magic context? Greater dragon? Greater elder land dragon worm? I don't know. They better hopefully give a little differentiation based on the planes you're visiting, because there are different power levels based on the planet you're on. Also, are they going to bring the gods of Forgotten Realms in? There's a lot of gods on Forgotten Realms. Like, literally like 70, 80 of them. It's crazy. And then there was like the War of the Gods and stuff in Forgotten Realms where a lot of them died. So, I think with this meshing, they probably already have this all planned out. They're probably not going to go too deep in. They're probably going to keep to major cities like Waterdeep. They're going to keep to maybe they'll visit Icewind Dale, right? Maybe there'll be some cards like that. I'm hoping they bring some of the classic characters in. We all are. We're expecting to see some of them. We'd love to see Drizzt Do'Urden come in. We'd love to see some of his friends appear, as well as some of the arch villains, right? Who wouldn't like to see the Spider Queen? Who wouldn't like to see the Benares, right? But we don't know how this will play out. But there are certain predictions. We know with the party mechanic, they're going to have rogues, clerics, warriors, and wizards, right? We know they're going to have those 4 things in to build the pump-ups. Okay, and the card mechanics going with that. So you might see a legendary card like Drizzt. Don't expect him to be some psycho card. That wouldn't be realistic for what they're doing here. He'd probably be like a 3/3 or a 4/4 maybe, with like double strike. Or maybe they'll bring back Rampage. That'd be cool for him, right? Like double strike with Rampage. I'm just saying. Don't expect those cards to be too out of whack because you're talking major characters. So what I did next here, just for fun, since I'm very fond of Forgotten Realms and very fond of Dragonlance, I thought we'd have a little clash off to kind of get this video started, to get our Magic feel. We know they're going to do Forgotten Realms. That's great. But there are a myriad of other worlds they can visit over these next few years. Like D&D has a history of building worlds going back 30, 40 years, kind of like Marvel, right? So when I was a teenager playing the game, we had Al-Qadim, we had Dark Sun, we had the Aztecs. Like they had all kinds of these different worlds you could visit. Now, Magic's already kind of visited them, hasn't it? Right? They visited Ixalan and stuff like that. They have different names, but it wouldn't be hard to mix in a new city and say that that's on Ixalan, right? And those same kind of creatures exist there. So I wonder if they will visit that world and say that's part of D&D now. I wonder if they'll mix those kind of things. Or if they go to Arabian Nights, which is Rabia, right? If they visit Rabia again, that would be Al-Qadim. There's an easy way to cross-mesh these planets and worlds to make it now one planet, just different sides of it or different parts of it. It'd be very cool. And I hope they are listening to my video and taking this advice, because it is the right advice to take. I'm telling you now, I know my stuff. This is what they should do. Take my advice, wizards. This is it. All right. So for our next little thing, I thought we'd have some fun. Just a little clash off stuff here. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of cards. I'll give you a couple arguments, and I want you guys to tell me which characters you would prefer to see in the future. All right. So on Forgotten Realms, Elminster is kind of like the toughest mage on the block. He is the big bad boy. All right, that's the one most people know about. That's one most people are like, wow, okay? And, I mean, he's like a demigod on that planet. He's crazy tough, okay? Even when you think he's dead, he's not really dead. But then, on Krynn, they have Raistlin Magir. He started as like a red robe guy, becomes evil, becomes the master of time. So you can time travel back and forth and do all kinds of crazy stuff. I think in the old 2nd edition rules, Elminster is a 26th level wizard, and Raistlin's only level 20. But Raistlin's abilities with the time travel are something Elminster didn't have. So there's always been a big clash with these two to see who would be greater. I've always been partial to Raistlin myself. I think he's the better character. Just more well-rounded out as that kind of evil, kind of does good things, sometimes kind of does bad things. I like him. So that's who I would pick. But I'd like to know who you guys would pick. If one of those characters was coming into the next Dungeons & Dragons set, who would you prefer to see? Now, we know it's Forgotten Realms, but I'm saying who would you prefer to see If you're new to the channel, I want to see comments on this because I'm going to do a little consensus for later on so we can see what happens. All right? Now, the next one. All right. Tasselhoff Burrfoot and Cyric. For those of you who don't know Tasselhoff, he's a little thief guy on Krynn. He's a race called a Kender. They look like kids, but they're not kids. Okay? They're grown people, but they're like short little people. Not a gnome because they're very slim and very agile. And they're known for being thieves. So he plays pivotal roles throughout the entire Krynn series of doing little mischief things that have major results later on. Cyric is a thief. He's always kind of an anti-good guy. He ends up becoming a god. On Forgotten Realms, he's the god of death and murder, I believe. He takes like 3 titles. He kills like 3 other gods. Takes them out. It's not the best image of him, but I think for this case you can see like he's a major thief in that world, but he became like a god. So, but I'm taking in his mortal terms, not his god format, although they could use him as a god. We are visiting Forgotten Realms after all. Or Tasselhoff, which would be awesome. So I'd like to know how those two. Like Tasselhoff is like a very naive character who does little things that have big results. Cyric was a very sour and dour person who like murdered people, Kevlar Lions Band stuff, to become a god. So it's kind of cool. Okay? So which one do you think would be better of those two? Because they have total different opposites. I tried to choose people in the party classes, by the way. So I chose fighters, warriors, thieves, clerics, right? So the next one up is Drizzt and Huma as our warrior types, because Drizzt is a ranger, Huma's a knight, but they're warriors, right? So Drizzt the Warden, of course, is by far my favorite character. I have numerous things with him now. Huma, though, was the first book I ever read, so I'm very, very soft spot for my Huma. He's very cool, although he's only a level 5 knight back in the day. And Drizzt is like a level 15 ranger, and considered one of the greatest fighters ever to fight, like, for D&D, right? Like, he's the most well-known character. He wears all kinds of magical items that, like, speed him up beyond belief, okay? So he's psycho fast. If you haven't read those books, he's definitely worth reading. Huma, on the other hand, only has 1 book about him. He dies at the end. Not to spoil it, but the book's 30 years old. You can go read it. It's an awesome book. But they're very pivotal characters, right? They're both self-sacrificing. They both do what's best for people. They're both the epitome of good, okay? Kind of like chaotic good, like a lawful good. So which character would you rather see? Which one do you think would be better? A knight? Like a warrior knight? Or a ranger warrior? Just saying. Both would be legendary, obviously. All these characters would be legendary characters within D&D. So they'd have to be legendary in things inside of Magic. And I'd love to see them with the partner effects. You could use them as like a commander too. Wouldn't that be cool? Put them with a partner tweak. So you can use them in multiple formats. That'd be cool. Let me know. Which one do you think is better? Alright, and last but not least. This isn't last but not least. Where's the other one? Oh, I'm missing one. Oh. Or if I can do it on the fly. Okay, so here we have Flint Fireforge, who is from Krynn. He was a hill dwarf. Pretty tough guy. He was old already. He doesn't look that old here, but he was old during the books. And then, of course, you have Brunar Battlehammer, best friend of Drizzt, like his adopted dad almost, right? Totally wicked warrior boy. Like, he's king, right? He's died, come back to life, been reborn with all of his battle abilities. Crazy, crazy amazing, okay? But Flint has that whole fatherly thing. He saved everyone multiple times by a little bit of bumbling, a little bit of hard-hitting fighting. Very wise person, helped out a lot of the younger characters inside the Krynn series. So he has a lot of like passion on his side, where Brunar is like all bluster. He just wants to go at it and like take people out with a soft heart you only see when he's mad about something. So very cool as well. And the last one, which apparently I didn't load up, was going to be Catterly from Forgotten Realms. He's like a major cleric, like super psycho tough. And it was going to be Goldmoon from Krynn. Goldmoon was the first cleric to be reborn because their planet didn't have clerics for a long time. The gods were hiding. And she was the first one to bring back the power of goodness and healing. Real healing. So she was like a pivotal character. She never got very high level, but very pivotal, okay? And then you have Catterly, who like sacrificed his life as an old man. He was about to die, and instead of dying, I think it's... Is he Morning Lord? Anyway, his god brought him back down to a young man, rejuvenate his whole health, and like because he built this cathedral just to this god, right? So it's a very cool story. He's kind of a minor side character, but he still has a big bit. And as an honorable mention, Master Kane. I would love to see him come into it. He's like a monk guy who basically can't be stopped. I would love to see him as a character in Magic the Gathering, as a legendary guy. We'll be curious to see. So let me know your thoughts on that. What do you guys think when you see those characters? Do you think they're right to bring right in to this new set? Or do you think we should wait for a little bit and see how the set formats out? Or do you think they'll go more generic? and not have actual legendary heroes the first set out. I think that would be a mistake. I'm expecting to see Drizzt, to be honest. Most people are. And if you don't bring Drizzt in, if you don't bring some of these major characters that D&D fans will cross over to buy the product, Wizards is being silly, right? They're missing out on an opportunity for cross products, right? People want to buy those products, and if you bring them in, then you can cross Magic characters over too, and maybe people join D&D. It's an opportunity I hope they're taking advantage of, because it definitely makes me want to talk about it, which is, you know, I'm all giddy just thinking about it, guys. I'm telling you. This gave me like the shivers today when I was doing it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so awesome. So I'm pretty psyched up. So, and feel free to research some of these characters. It doesn't take that long to do a little reading and find out about them if you're curious. But please, I'd love to see the comments below to see what people think of these characters. I think it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Hope you took the time to watch the whole video. This is MTG Mox, man. Big shout out to all my patrons who make this every day. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. It's awesome. I'll see you guys soon. It's going to be awesome. Groovy, man. Drizzt? Come on, you got to bring Drizzt. Although Huma's pretty awesome, too. I mean... Oh, man. Dungeons and Dragons, man. It's going to rock. I'm in such a good mood. I'm making myself some nachos and cheese. I'm going to kick back and watch Army of Darkness. Ah, this series is going to be awesome. Ah!